in the thanks, Ken. If you're not in the right session, then you can quietly exit. But chances are everyone's got the right link and has turned up at the right time. So you're here for Safe System Audit, and it is a bit of a transition stage at the moment, isn't it, Ken, between, I guess, the traditional road safety audit and where we're headed with Safe System Audit.
Yeah, that's right, Kathy, and I will explain a little bit about that detail as we get up and running. But I think first we better do some housekeeping, logistics, how this course runs. Some people are going to be familiar and happy with that. Some others, we might need to let them know a few things. I snuck in and hit the record button already, Kathy. Why do we record these, Kathy?
Well, we record them because chances are you might miss one of the sessions. There's 5 sessions in total. And so if you can't make one particular session, there's nothing to worry about. We record it and we pop it in the learning management system. The recording usually a couple of hours after the live event. So that's available to you to see if you miss one, or if you want to catch up on something, maybe something you weren't quite sure about. And so you can go back and have another look at it. And there is a bit of a content warning there. We do have some video learning. There are some crash scenes. There's nothing overly graphic. However, we know that sometimes these things can be a bit triggering for some people. So we'll let you know at the time. And if you'd like to look away at the time, you can do so. But as I said, there's nothing too graphic in there.
So who's this on screen?
Yeah, I'm frowning a bit. It was a bit sunny that day. So my name's Kathy Dekouris, and I'm the training manager here at Safe System Solutions. And I've been in the road-related technical training space for, I think, coming on to 20 years. So I'm feeling quite elderly. But if you can't make a set, I'll be your moderator behind the scenes. So if you can't make a session, if you've got any technical issues, any problems with the learning management system, just shoot me an email, and you can respond to one of the many emails you've received from us, training@safesystemsolutions.com.au. You can chat during the sessions as everyone's doing and saying good morning. And so feel free to keep that going throughout. You can chat to everyone, or you can chat just to myself, so or the hosts and panelists. Or if you want to ask a question anonymously, you can do so via the Q&A. So I monitor all of those things behind the scenes. If you want to make your voice heard, please raise your hand and we will unmute you, and you can say your bit. So, and we might call on people to do that throughout the session. Now, if it all isn't working for you, it's classic IT 101, switch it all off and switch it back on again. And usually that fixes most problems, but there are the dial-in numbers. So again, just get in touch with me either on the chat or via email, and I'll help you out there.
Thanks, Kathy. And we do really encourage people to use that chat, get involved. I'll ask you some questions and you should be asking us questions. And Kathy will monitor behind the scenes. So don't wait until I say, does anybody have any questions? Because then you start typing and then I've moved on, and then, yeah. So just as you think of it, jot it in. If we cover it off as we're going, then we won't need to deal with it. And yeah, no, so my name's Ken Beer, for those I don't know, and good to meet you. For those I already know, good to reconnect with you. I'm Principal Engineer at Safe System Solutions, and I'll run the content of this course. So any of the technical questions you have, shoot them through to me. We also have Sam Paisley, who's our New Zealand Managing Director there in Auckland. And he's a local presence that you could turn to and ask any specific local questions, and experienced road safety auditor and Safe System auditor as much as you can be experienced in that, because it's only been around a little bit of time. But all of our contact details are there. There's a QR code to my LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me on there, I do share road safety engineering related content, audit content, bits and pieces. Yeah, so I'll run you through all of the technical stuff. I have been involved in the road safety auditing space for a while, also about 20 years, which shows Kathy and I are probably about the same age. And I'll be sharing a fair bit of the things I've picked up along the way, but also do work very closely with Wakatahi on the the new processes and systems and how they are integrating into work practices. So I'll be sharing a lot of that as well. Now, what is this LMS, Kathy?
Oh, it's the new fandangled. It's a learning management system, and it's basically an online spot where we house everything. So everything to do with the course is in this particular platform. For those of you who may have been to university in more recent years, you'd be very familiar with this. For those of you not so much, it's a great opportunity to see what the young people are doing. So we've got each module in there. Many of you have already jumped in and said hello and introduced yourselves, which is great. So obviously you're already getting in there. A copy of the presentation slides are in there. Lots of resources are in there and anything we add along the way. And also that's where we'll put the recordings. At the end of each of the webinar modules, there'll be a short sort of 10-question multiple choice style quiz that we'll ask you to do. It shouldn't take you very long, sort of 5 to 10 minutes, and we'll try and allow a little bit of time at the end of the session so that you can get it all done in your 2 hours. We do have a couple of assignments and we kick off with one today, so straight into it. No rest is how Ken operates here. So yeah, so they'll all be available as well in the learning management system. And I'll talk you through that at the end when we get to that bit there. But again, if you don't have your login, some people have already been in touch or you can't find it or anything like that, just shoot me an email and we'll sort that out for you.
Yeah, you need access to this.
You do.
In order to pass the course. You can't complete the course without access to the learning management system. So make sure you've got that and you've got in there. And this is Wally, for those who don't know him, Wally the Wombat. And he's our little pet wombat that appears a number of times in each session. And you've got to keep track of how many times that warning sign appears. It could be anywhere around the screen. And that will be one of the questions. That's one of our many tricks to try to keep you engaged. Online learning is very challenging one because it's so tempting to do your emails and finish that roundabout design and finish that report that needed to get out yesterday. But you've got to keep an eye on what's going on to make sure you count the Wallies. And we've got a few other things to keep you engaged. So that's not one. That's just an example one. Your Wally count is 0. And the other things you need to do to successfully complete this course is we would love you to attend 5 out of the 5 live webinars so you can interact and ask your questions and the like. But we do understand life is hectic and you may just have unavoidable things and miss one. Get in contact with Kathy if you need any exemptions out of that if things happen. We need you to do all the set tasks, of course, and you need to get an 80% or above on all quizzes and assignments. So we've set a reasonably high benchmark on this, competency benchmark. We don't shy away from that. However, everything you're going to be tested on is covered in the course. And you also get 3 attempts at everything. And we offer one-on-one coaching if you're having trouble with any of it. So one of our engineers will set up a Zoom call with you or talk you through stuff, or you can email through questions and we can very much help you build up that knowledge and competency around safe system auditing. And I think you shouldn't have too much trouble. The common practice is to have a go at it once, and then if you really struggled on that one and get your feedback and it's low marks, that's probably the time to then organise that one-on-one catch-up. Anything to add there, Kathy?
That's marvelous, Ken. I really do encourage people to remember it's new learning for many people, and so it's as Ken said, just have a go, and the feedback and the one-on-one coaching is available, and they're really valuable in terms of getting you to learn how it all works. So really, the more you get involved, the more you'll get out of it. So I really encourage you to ask questions throughout the sessions, ask questions via email. Yeah, go for it.
And yeah, I think it's a bit of fun as well, this course. We do some pretty exciting stuff. We get you out there on site to look at things, and we've got some cool little exercises, and we give out some prizes too, because we like to, again, keep you engaged. You can see Kathy's background there. She's in the prize pit.
I thought I was at the carnival or the circus. No, prize pit. Prize pit. Hold on, let me get something out of the prize pit here. I'll just grab something. Is it Superman? It could be Superman. It's an antique.
We're not giving people that.
I was just checking if I can scan your QR code with my BlackBerry.
You reckon you could? When's that from? Like 1998?
I think it was early 2000s. But anyway, no, we're not giving away a BlackBerry because it doesn't work anymore.
No, the prizes are random assortment of things, and we keep it a little bit of a surprise what will arrive. And when you successfully complete the course, you'll get an electronic certificate, but then a few weeks later, you'll get a pack in the mail with a hard copy of your certificate of successful completion and any prizes you picked up along the way. So I will be asking questions, and I'll just be giving out prizes for people who have a crack at it or ask good questions or get involved. Kathy will keep a track of that, you'll get them. Hopefully some of you have got a little welcome pack. Some of them may not have arrived yet. The postal service is a little bit erratic, but hopefully you got that.
I think New Zealand's pretty onto it, and yes, we should get stuck into it, Ken.
Yeah. Well, before we do, I might just acknowledge the traditional custodians of the varied lands on which we're running this. Lands I'm running it on, and we've got participants all across New Zealand. So acknowledge traditional custodians of the land and pay respect to the elders past and present and emerging. I think it's an important thing we do to kick off a course like this, even though it's virtual. Anything else, Kathy?
I think we're good. As Ken said, if you've got questions, type them in as we go. And over to you, Ken. Thank you.
Okay, so road safety audit / safe system audit. I'm going to sort of explain why I'm calling it two things at the moment, which can get a little bit confusing. I think some of you are onto this, and some of you may have even seen a Australasian College of Road Safety online webinar I ran with some Wakatahi people about this transition. I'll explain it all. But one thing I do need you to understand is that this course that you're going to complete is recognised across Australia as an official road safety audit course. So if you happen to come over to Australia and you wanted to do a road safety audit, this course would be recognised, so you could be an accredited road safety auditor in that jurisdiction, everywhere except for Western Australia. So we have to cover some stuff off that may not be absolutely directly relevant to New Zealand practices, but it's still really good stuff, and you should know it as a holistic person in road safety and road safety auditing. But I'll flag some of those. So that's why, I will occasionally refer to road safety audits as opposed to safe system audits, and I'll explain that difference as we tick along. Okay, overall, first of all, I don't like a slide with this many words on it, but as a sort of summary of the objectives of this course, it had to have a few words. I want to talk about the process of road safety auditing, safe system auditing, and give you some basic skills in that. I will talk about a lot of examples of common issues in road safety audits that I've encountered in my 20 years on the tools, and what colleagues come up against quite a lot as well. So it'll give you a few hints, but by no means are we able to, in the short time we have together, cover off everything from a technical perspective you would need to be looking at as a road safety auditor. It's a lifelong learning journey. You continue to build things, you utilize your existing knowledge, but we will get you that process knowledge, and then it's over to you to apply that using your existing knowledge and what you continue to learn. We really will ensure that you think about all road users, cyclists, motorcyclists, heavy vehicles, pedestrians, cars, micro-mobility, all these new things that are emerging. Because road safety audit is just about the safety of our community and anybody that's traveling around on or adjacent to road networks. Okay, we're going to encourage auditing as one of the tools to improve road safety. We recognize it's only one of the tools. There's many, many things out there, but it's a very well established and well integrated tool for ensuring road safety of work we do or the existing road network. And we're going to encourage that because there's pretty solid evidence of the benefit of road safety auditing as a practice. And any questions you've got, I'm here to answer them. And if I can't answer them, I will very likely know somebody that can, and I will be able to follow that up for you. All right, there's a Wally. That's as much help as you're going to get through this course on counting Wallies. Your Wally count is 1. All right. So, Austroads in 2022 released the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6, a new version of that. Part 6 is road safety audit. Now, I was the technical advisor to Austroads on that document, so heavily involved in it. New Zealand has been operating with the road safety audit procedures for project guidelines, which is this one stamped superseded. And so many of you may have seen that document or have been working under that road safety audit process for a long time. That has been superseded by these new safe system audit guidelines. The other thing is this safe system assessment framework, which is another Austroads document. And we run a separate course called Safe System Assessments. And part of sort of that process is used in a safe system audit. So the safe system audit guidelines, Waka Kotahi released late last year. And what it does is it basically says you are to undertake a road safety audit as per the way we've been doing it from a process perspective. But we're taking some of this new stuff and we're taking some of this and we're integrating it into this document. I will take you through that. But what we really see in a safe system audit is the first little bit of it is a safe system assessment matrix, okay? I'm not really going to be taking you through in detail how to do that in this course, okay? You can either jump into that document, have a look at how to do that. You can come to our course, which many of you have already been to, which takes you in detail on how to do that. Then the second bit of it is a road safety audit. Now, it has been adjusted a little bit, and that's really the focus of today. So if you're going to do a safe system audit in accordance with Waka Kotahi guidelines, you can either do this part yourself with your team and this part. If you don't really have skills in this, partner yourself up with somebody who does and start to get your head around that. Or you could, engage somebody in to do that for you. Now, it's a little bit confusing. And the reason for this is it is a transition. So this guideline is out for working release, I suppose you'd call it. They want feedback on it. We've already identified some things that in practice don't work so well. So we're providing that feedback to Waka Kotahi. And yeah, we will be getting you to do a safe system audit using the templates provided in this document. Now, it would be absolutely fine if you had questions and confusion still around this, because it is a bit of a confusing process during this transition, and I'm happy to answer those. But I'll keep ticking along unless Kathy wants to jump in at any point.
You're all good, Ken.
Okay. So this diagram has been taken out of the Australia's Guide to Road Safety Part 6. And it's just trying to show you the variety of tools and processes available to inject safety into projects, or ways for us to think about safety at a network level. I don't want to spend long on this because I'm just trying to show you that road safety audit is one of these parts. But we have sort of these visions and higher level sort of ways to look at things with safe system principles, movement in place, or one network framework style thinking, safety and design. These are our green ones. And then what we have are these sort of proactive techniques, which aren't reliant on a specific crash history or anything like that. We're just looking at the road network with our understanding of what presents risk, regardless of whether there's been crashes or not, and being able to make commentary around that. Then we've got predictive techniques, which are very sort of similar there in that sense, but sometimes integrate a bit of crash history in there, such as ANRAM certainly would use crash history, as well as a whole lot of metrics of risk we understand, IRR, OSRAP or KiwiRAP. Safe system assessments are in there as well. And then we've got reactive techniques. And reactive techniques are when you have crash history at a location and you do a black spot investigation or a crash investigation style assessment of an area, looking at the crashes, the characteristics of those crashes. It's a different technique. It's a reactive technique. I better give out a prize, Kathy, just keep people on their toes. If somebody can tell me what IRR stands for. So I used it there, IRR. There you go. It's a New Zealand invention. Just type it into the chat. I see a hand popped up. So infrastructure risk rating is correct.
Like the internal rate of return, though, might be a finance term.
So yeah, someone's an economist, aren't
they? So Mercia was first.
Yeah. So it's infrastructure risk rating. So these three, okay, are basically computer models that you put in the characteristics of a road environment and it spits out how risky that is. Okay. IRR, infrastructure risk rating, is one that is fairly simple. It has 9 variables, I think, off the top of my head, 9 or 8 variables that you put in: speed, land use, divided or undivided road, these sorts of things, and it spits out a risk of that area. The ANRAM or KiwiRAP, they are more complex ones. They have about 64 variables, and so you're putting a lot more things in. So you put like, shoulder width. You make a assessment of how good the line marking is, and these sorts of things, and it spits out a risk as well. But the important thing to know is that these, certainly at this stage, and I can't see it changing for a long time, these are strategic tools. I mean, they're high-level tools. You cannot jump to an intersection and run an IRR on it and get an understanding of the risk at that intersection. It's just meaningless because there are so many intricate nuances of that intersection. Okay, there's some overarching things we know, speed, they're going to play a big factor. But what we do as road safety auditors is we delve into the detail, okay? If you want to take your whole council area or your whole region and look at, which roads are riskiest, road safety audit is not your tool. these are your tools because you can deploy them big, right? Get an idea. But then when you get to that, you need to jump in and start looking in detail.
And we have some questions. Bridget's noting that IRR doesn't incorporate speed, which is...
Well, it's because it was, I suppose, yeah, invented to be a way to look at which roads need their speed to be dropped. That makes sense. So it's a, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a prize-worthy comment to know that detail. Prize there.
Prize for Bridget. Sean's also asking about the status of Kiwi Wrap and Wakakatahi. It seems to be shelved at the moment. Any insights there?
I'm not 100% sure. So I use OzWrap a lot, and OzWrap and Kiwi Wrap are the same. But whether it's being sort of promoted and used by Wakatahi is a fair question, and what changes are happening with it. I'll take that as a note and find out. Having breakfast with a Wakatahi person tomorrow morning, so we'll be asking that question. Okay, awesome. I just took a note of that. But we're really going to hone in on this road safety audit. And you can see that in the life cycle of a project, from, you're planning a network and you're doing, development of upgrade programs and the like, you're really into, okay, we've got a bit of an idea of what's happening, or we've got, so we've got a design or the like, and then we're going to look at, how good is that design within, from a safety perspective. This safe system assessment is sort of being thrown into there as part of this new process. Okay, let's get into a little bit of just the basics of the idea of road safety auditing safe system. So the first thing to understand is that meeting standards does not guarantee safety. Okay, it's a decent starting point to know what your standards and guidelines say and whether you're conforming to those. But an absolutely fundamental thing for an auditor is to understand that their job is not to assess conformance with standards and guidelines. Their job is to find out how our community is going to be killed or seriously injured. I don't care whether it meets standards or not. If there's a risk there, we report it. Now, I suppose a fair question to ask is, why on earth would there be risk of death and serious injury if we meet standards? Well, that's a complex question, but there's a few reasons. One is that sometimes our standards and guidelines have done this old school way of thinking, which is to balance mobility and safety, and say, we still need to move people around this network, so we'll, just find a nice balance of killing our community with moving stuff around. Okay, we don't take that attitude anymore under a safe system approach, and we say, no, we will make it safe, and then we'll move stuff around and people around as quickly as we can within that envelope. But we are lagging a huge inheritance of standards and guidelines that don't think that way. The second one is that the combination of standards, there are so many permutations and combinations of standards that we just haven't ever seen them. And some of them come together, and just the way that they've laid down, and they present unsafe scenarios. They may in isolation meet their standards, but combined, they present a risky scenario. And there's also ones where we're operating in environments that there are no standards or guidelines. Either we're innovating or it's a completely new situation for some reason. So all of those reasons mean we can't just say, oh, I met standards and that's all fine. And our job as auditors is to come in and check from a logical perspective, do we believe our community will be killed and seriously injured after this is built? So the biggest misconception is that a road safety audit is a check against standards. And I understand that because of that term audit. If you're getting a financial audit done on you, it is, did you meet tax code, like to the letter, right? So I can understand why the confusion comes about, but that is not our role, okay? That being said, we do bounce in and out of standards quite a bit as auditors, and when standards are not being met and we believe it is going to present death and serious injury to our community, we certainly report on that. But sometimes if standards are not being met, but we believe it's safe, we don't report on that. So just throwing that all out there. Let's just look at a quick case study here of a brand new $1 billion plus motorway project. Was built not that long ago, completed, and within a short period of time we saw this incident occur where a large vehicle left the road, breached the barrier system, and collided with the gantry, and the driver was killed. Now, this area, standards were absolutely met. I mean, these were multinational consultancy designers who are very experienced, and they knew what they were. They were good designers and the like, and this all met standards and guidelines. And it had a barrier system there, and it was a test level 3 barrier system. Well, I'll say it's a test level 3. It could have been a test level 4. It wasn't a test level 4 in the end, but even if it was a test level 4 barrier system, there's certain limitations to that barrier system. So let's talk about a test level 4 barrier system, which you would see as a fairly common barrier system across the New Zealand network. Okay, a test level 3 or 4. But let's go with a 4. So what I'm talking about with test level is that barrier has, that barrier type, in a test environment, been tested with a vehicle crashing into it under this certain test protocol. So what I'll ask is, at 100 kilometers per hour, 25-degree angle, what weight of vehicle, I'll give a prize to the person who's closest to this, what weight of vehicle was a test level 4 barrier system tested against? Any guesses? Okay, good. We're getting some guesses coming in. 40 tonne, that's our closest so far. Any other guesses? Test level 4. Okay. Oh, there it is. Courtney has got it with 10 tonnes. Take a prize note there. So 10 tonnes, and well done to everybody sort of jumping in there with a guess. Okay, we've got a 10-tonne truck at a test level 4. I said a test level 3, and that's 2 tonnes. I saw somebody put 2 tonnes in there. So that is our test vehicle for a test level 4 barrier system. Okay. You can see it there, that's in a test environment. So that vehicle there, loaded or unloaded, is going to likely be more than that barrier has been tested against. So we can't reasonably expect that barrier to contain these types of vehicles. So what we want to do as road safety auditors is look at the design before this road is built and say, you know what, this is a major motorway. We think that actually there's going to be quite a few large vehicles going through here that are well above that test level. And this is a pretty dangerous location. Okay, so there's some areas where if a large vehicle breached the barrier, it may not be as bad. There's a big run out area behind it. There's probably a second barrier on the other side of the road. But hitting a gantry is going to be a very serious event for the driver, in fact, a fatal event for the driver in this case. But we also have this secondary danger that thing could come down. So it may have been structurally designed for certain forces, but it's a fairly dangerous scenario. So there, I use that just as an example of standards and guidelines being absolutely met, but our community dies from not doing anything overly excessive and making a mistake, leaving the road, and we have not protected or contained them. So we want to try to intervene as road safety auditors and maybe suggest higher containment. There are higher containment barriers than that when you get into concrete usually, but maybe around these high risk scenarios, there should have been that. So that's our test vehicle. Now, some of you might be sort of trembling a little bit, thinking, oh my God, I don't know all of this stuff about barriers. Is this what road safety auditing is about? I'm out of my depth here. Don't worry too much, because you undertake audits in teams. And what you do is pull together a team that has the appropriate expertise. You would expect people in your team to have barrier knowledge that would understand some of this if you are doing that. You will build knowledge in these areas as you go about your auditing. Some of you might already have this type of knowledge, or at least know where to find that. But the important part is not actual technical knowledge here. It's asking the right questions. It's saying, when a large vehicle leaves the road, will that barrier hold that and contain it? And thinking about that context. Let me give you another one. So this is a plan to duplicate a road and add a signalized intersection, because there is a absolutely massive subdivision happening here with a huge number of apartments, a shopping center, cafes. It's big, it's big. All right, and so they've been required by the road authority to build a signalized intersection, and the road's being duplicated. There's an existing intersection down here. I'm going to zoom in on this so we can see a little bit clearer. So here's their design and their plan, and this is the kind of time you are road safety auditing. Often you're given like a design like this, a drawing, and they say this is what we're planning to build. And then your job as an auditor is to tell them what are the risks if they build it exactly as they've shown it. So here we see the new signalized intersection, this main street being a, new, doesn't exist at the moment. And we're looking at this and we might find quite a few issues, and we'll be thinking about different things. But here's one where if you're that car there, or we imagine a car there, and it's going along at, say, 65 kilometers an hour. It's a 60 zone, but maybe they're going a little bit fast. And they're traveling along straight through. So they're going straight. Oh, I'm in a right turn lane. Okay. And this is what is termed a trap lane. A trap lane is a common thing that we find in audits. So trap lanes are not technically against standards. They are discouraged in some guidelines. Austroads discourages trap lanes, but you can't flat out say this does not meet standards. But we know absolutely that we are going to have side swipe and rear end crashes happening down here. Because you get that driver, they're coming along, all of a sudden, they're going to want to turn right. So they're going to make a quick maneuver. They're going to be looking back. And that's the crashes that we know are going to happen. Motorcyclists and cyclists get very, higher injuries associated with these sorts of things. Usually for most vehicles, it's a minor incident. We don't want it. We don't like it. But we know that if that's built like that, that's what will happen. So again, it's an example of us as auditors saying we are concerned about the risk to our community when you build it like that. Now, this is an interesting one because I would say that in the previous one with the barrier system and the like, the designers probably didn't think about that particular risk of the large vehicle breaching. I would say in this one, the designer is absolutely aware they're building a trap lane. Okay? Like it's not going to be they know what they're doing, these designers are very good, but they are constrained. They're constrained on land, the land they have available. They could be constrained by cultural heritage issues. It could be a traffic, modeling thing And don't get me wrong, I've worked on major projects and worked a lot in delivery, and I am very sympathetic to the challenges of building public infrastructure. But our role as road safety auditors is not to get swayed by all of that and simply say, this is going to result in crashes and make a risk rating of that, okay? Road safety auditing, you have the luxury of getting rid of all of that in terms of all of those constraints and simply saying it as it is. That is their problem to work through. We recognize the risk, we flag the risk, and we put it out there. Now, we do help them with some little recommendations of how to lessen this risk, okay? That is a supplementary benefit that they get from the audit. If you read the Austroads Guide, an auditor's job is to find problems, right? We're not there to solve them. We can help advise on solving and the like, but it's really over to them to solve it. It's their project. But trap lanes are a common one. Now, Kathy, I think I've been doing enough talking here. I'll see if there's any questions, and then I'm going to get these people to do a little bit of, well, it's not really road safety auditing. It's looking at a crash and thinking a bit like an auditor. But anyway, I'll explain it. But anything I need to deal with?
Yeah, so just to clarify, we have had this answered by others in the group, but is there ever an acceptable scenario where the design and the road safety audit can be completed by the same person?
No.
You're sitting there trying to think of that remote regional outback location where there's only one person, but no. So it has to be independent, it has to be separate.
Yeah, I was racking my brain to think of some unique thing, but no. I mean, and I will talk about this a little bit later on, but that's like saying, can you proofread your own letter? I mean, yes, you can look at your design with all of the knowledge you have as a road safety auditor, that you've done the design, you look at it, you're thinking about all of this stuff, but the independent check will identify things that you won't see yourself just because you're too close to it. And second of all is, as I talked about with those major projects, or actually any project, if you are the designer or the project manager, you are dealing with all sorts of stuff. It is so complex. You're dealing with your cost issues, your timeline issues, you're dealing with your community, your conformance with all of these different things. It is complex, and you need the safety to be just looked at from a safety perspective, because you either consciously or subconsciously can lessen risk and balance things out from that perspective. So yeah, the answer is no. but I will give a prize if anybody can give me a scenario where they think it would be acceptable.
So let's not distract people. Okay.
But hypothetically, if you had a quiz question at the end of this module that asked if you, as the project manager or designer, could do an audit on your design, the answer would be no.
Hypothetically.
Yeah.
Tell us about, so apparently there's trap lanes all over Auckland and Kurunga at major intersections. And in the earlier example with the barrier on that freeway, would the road safety auditors have failed to pick up the barrier containment there?
Yeah, so either the road safety auditors failed to pick it up as well, which is possible. I mean, road safety auditors are, they're only human. Or the road safety auditors did pick it up, gave it a particular risk rating. We don't know what that was. And the project team, the designers and the like, elected not to act on that, or they acted on that in a way that was, lessened the risk in some way, but not enough to prevent that incident. So, and we see that a lot, actually. In fact, that trap lane one is an example. I mean, I was on that audit team. We picked the trap lane. We told them about it. We told them that that should be removed with a channelized double right turn if they need that. And they came back and they said, we can't, everything's already locked away in terms of land and acquisition, and it is impossible for that to happen. So we're going to lessen the risk by doing some advanced warning and some line marking. And it's not a great scenario. It's still there. It causes trouble all the time. It was flagged, but that's the reality of it. Like, it's their project. They were told about it, and that's how they've gone about rectifying it. I would have liked to see something more, but it's what it is.
Very good, Ken. Do all roads require road safety audit, or only if a condition of resource consent or engineering planning approval?
Yeah, so I'll talk a bit more about when you could do road safety audits later. Not only that, I mean, there's possibility to do all road safety audits in all sorts of scenarios, but it's for design in New Zealand. It's for designs or new upgrades or changes to the road network. Okay, the existing road network gets another process in its own right. Okay.
Yeah, and Jess has just said that it can be a funding requirement from Waka Kotahi to have a road safety audit completed as well. Thanks, Jess.
Yeah. So what I want everybody to do here, okay, what I'm going to do is show you a crash scene here. And, okay, remember, a road safety audit is not a crash investigation. But what we're doing is we're looking at this crash to try and understand what characteristics of this road environment may have contributed to this crash. So if we see a design that has similar characteristics, we can say, I see this risk. They haven't built it yet, but they're going to build a risk in. We should do something about this at design session. So what I want you to do in this one is I'm going to play it. I'll play it a few times. And then I want you to write into the chat what characteristics of the road environment have contributed to this crash happening, okay? Not the driver and the driver's behavior or anything like that, all right? What characteristics of the road environment, the geometry, the signs, the lines, the, all of that stuff, okay? So let's play this, and hopefully this will stream through for you. It's the back, we're seeing out the back dash cam, and we'll go to the front dash cam shortly. And we're watching this white ute. Okay, I'm going to play that again a couple of times when I'm seeing some good stuff coming in already. I'm going to play it again and then we'll have a chat about it. But type your stuff in as we go and we'll have a look, Kathy. Liking this group already. Oh, sorry.
They only needed to say it once, Ken. We're going to have to give out lots of prizes.
Right. Wow. Okay. What a great group, Kathy. I'm just reading them through as we go. The first thing I'd like to point out is that there is a bit of confusion about what the intersection form is. Is this a roundabout? Is it something else? And that's actually a really good position to start with as a road safety auditor. Is it obvious? Will it be obvious from somebody approaching what the intersection control is? And yeah, there's characteristics that will look a little bit like a roundabout. It's not a roundabout, but it kind of looks like that. And so it's you know, and of course, well, one thing I haven't mentioned yet, when you road safety audit, you go to a site. You know, even if it's just a plan of upgrades to it, but you'll look at that, you'll look at the characteristics of the site. So that's a fair enough thing to be looking at. Okay, so we've got a lot of people pointing out things around signage. Okay, and signage is always an important thing to look at as a road safety auditor, signage and line marking. But I'll tell you now that there are fundamental characteristics of the geometry of a road environment that are far more influential than signs and lines. And I'm really excited that I've seen a couple of people, and Kathy, this is going to be where you earn your paycheck. You're going to find all the people in there that talked about it not being immediately obvious that the road doesn't continue on. So any see-through effect, straight through it, the road looks like it continues, because the geometry of this road on the approach is such that we see a straight run into the road continuing through. There's a small hazard board there to try to stop people thinking that this road continues straight through. But if you talk to any human factors experts, behavioral psychologists, they'll talk to you about these very subconscious triggers in a road environment, clues that will exacerbate a see-through effect. Power poles running along through and a line of trees or a line of lights like that is a very significant, albeit subconscious, cue to a driver that their road continues straight through. That is hugely influential. And then what is trying to happen here is signs and lines are trying to be used to counter that subconscious impact. And so that's our giveaway signs, our any advanced warning signs. And when some people are saying there isn't enough advanced, I absolutely agree. We haven't given them enough warning. But fundamentally, if we could, we would want to fix this see-through effect. And you can fix see-through effects in a big variety of ways. You can stagger the intersection so it doesn't run directly straight through. You can change intersection form to roundabouts, so you can chicane people in. There's a whole raft of things that could be done. But that's a really, important one. I like people are then starting to look at some of the other challenges. We've got, is there enough sight distance? Are we blocking sight distance? Are signs overlapping and blocking each other and the like? Again, I think these are important, and you certainly would as a road safety auditor be pointing these out. and they would have some influence. There's two types of intersection crashes. We categorize intersection crashes into two types, overshoot or restart. This is an overshoot crash, okay? And overshoot crashes are heavily influenced by that see-through effect. Restart crashes are when somebody absolutely knows there's an intersection and they should give way, and they don't for some reason. They make a bad call. Restart crashes are far more significantly influenced by sight distance constraints. So that's a real one to be looking at. So people talked about lighting. You would definitely want to have a look at the lighting, the location of that light pole that was hit. Yeah, Kathy, I'll let you decide who's getting prizes out of that, because there's a lot that could be given out. Well done on everybody for getting so involved. Certainly anybody who said see-through effect or the like is getting a prize, and maybe some additional ones. But that was interesting, wasn't it? That then, you know, the overshoot happens, a crash happens, and we see that black car strike that light pole, and then it breaks away, and then that top little bit falls down. But this is actually quite important for us as auditors. Somebody, you know, has pointed out, okay, well, the location of that, is that an issue? And that's something to have a think about. But the fact that somebody has elected at some point to make that pole break away when struck by a vehicle, I believe has saved the life of that black car driver. You saw them get out of their car and walk away. The distance between there and there that they've been able to slow down is immensely significant in terms of kinetic energy management. Okay, it doesn't look like much, but if that was a rigid pole, all of that energy of that crash would have gone straight into the occupant of that vehicle. But that ability for it to break away, it dissipates some of it into the environment, slows down that immediate force. And we've got what is a very survivable scenario. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because road safety auditors are not just thinking about what's going to cause this crash, but we've got to think about how bad is it going to be when it happens, and other things we can do to make it less severe. Okay, and I think that, as I say, this has been a design decision, or maybe an auditor was involved and they suggested this, but to make this what we would call a frangible pole. So frangible is this overarching term for anything that breaks away on impact. So this one happens to be a slip-based pole. And slip-based, for those who don't know it, I'm sure many of you know it and you see it. And slip-based is basically where you have a shearing plane at the base and you have some bolts to hold. And so wind load and all of that is taken by the bolts. But when struck at the bottom, it shears across. Just brilliant invention. And you know, saved thousands of lives around the world for sure. And here's one you see in New Zealand, in Plymouth. And somebody's hit that at some decent speed to send it through a reassurance sign. But there was no injuries as a result of this crash. Like, I don't know the detailed circumstances of this crash, but to get enough force to catapult that sign, that pole through that sign, if it was a rigid pole, huge trouble for the occupants of that vehicle. Okay. So as a road safety auditor or a safe system auditor, we're really interested in, yes, trying to stop crashes happening, but also understanding when they do happen, how do we prevent our community from being seriously injured or killed? And how do we make it so it is just damage to the vehicle or the infrastructure, or very minor scrapes to those involved in these crashes? And you'll be given designs that look like this as auditors. And, that maybe will be one of 50 pages that you'll be given to analyze, because you'll be given the drainage plan and the lighting. Yeah, this is the lighting plan, and you'll be given the signs and the pavement details and the like, and you're looking at it, and then you'll be saying, okay, what type of light posts are they working? You'd be thinking about a whole lot of things. Are those lights going to create one of those see-through effects? What type of poles are they using? Where are they located? Are they slip-based? Are they rigid? And maybe though, in some of these locations, what could be the issue if they did decide to use slip-based poles for all of these lights? I mean, they're thinking about the safety of people leaving the road, hitting these poles. We've just talked about it. But what other issues could arise if they did use slip-based? Anybody got any ideas on that? Pop it in the chat. All right, Will's on it. Prize there for Will. Just first to get in, lots of others. That's right. Context. It's always important to think about the context of these things. We've just established frangible poles are great for the vehicle occupants, but they're going to fall. You saw one fling through a reassurance sign. If this is a heavily populated pedestrian area, vehicles are going to hit that, and then they're going to drop it onto pedestrians. So we need to be that sort of, we need to be those eyes that think about the context. Again, it's, standards and guidelines. Some standards and guidelines will pick up on this, and some standards and guidelines talk about you can't use slip-based poles in speed limits under 50 or 60 kilometers an hour. But where the poles are going to fall, pedestrians, power lines, and the like, is an important factor for us as auditors to consider. There is an option of a thing called a impact absorbing pole, which actually is technically a frangible pole. It envelopes the vehicle. So you can see the vehicle won't continue through it. So it doesn't have as much energy dissipation benefit, but it certainly has some, and it keeps it a bit more contained. So your choices really are low speed vehicle environments. Rigid poles are okay because there's not enough speed to damage the occupants of the vehicles. Medium speed environments, impact absorbing. Try and keep it as contained as you can. High speed, you've got to go slip based, because this won't be enough to lessen the severity of the impact for the occupant of the vehicle. So we want to think about where they fall. Where are they going to fall if they're slip based? Another one, and this is for if you're doing a post-opening road safety audit. So I've just built this roundabout, and there's Max, one of our senior auditors out there with his, whoever's taking the photos, part of the audit team. He's checking the height of those, because you just want to make sure that they're not too high, because vehicles will snag on them, they're useless. Too low is not as bad, but you're just starting to lose the advantage of the shearing plane. So there's another thing to check. Kathy, I think we might take a 2-minute break.
Sounds good, Ken, because it is half time or intermission, depending on your brand of choice. Now, I did want to answer an earlier question about the certificate that people get for this. I can't quite find the question at the moment, but it was, will the certificate people get be in the SSA, which is the Safe System Audit format, or the Road Safety Audit format? And at the moment, it's still, this one will give you a certificate that says Road Safety Audit. If you've previously done the Safe System Assessment course, that program and this program together are kind of like your Safe System Audit. But later this year, we'll be working on combining the two programs and offering one. We are very much in that transition stage at the moment, so don't feel like, you won't be getting the latest and greatest, because you're getting it as it comes to us at the moment. So this very much is a bit of a road safety audit / safe system audit type course at the moment. Would that be right, Ken?
Yeah, the certificate you get from this, you are absolutely able to undertake a safe system audit, and you meet all the requirements around that. You will just need to either skill yourself up or do our course on the safe system assessment part of that. Yeah, but there's nothing, it's not like you finish this and you can't do a safe system, you can't undertake that process. You just need a little bit more knowledge. So hope that answers it. Let's take 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Was there we'll answer other questions when we come back. 2 minutes. Thank you. I'm going to get back into it. I have a huge amount of content to still cover, so I'm going to move a little bit quicker through some of this. Road safety audits are proactive. I've mentioned this. You do not need a crash history to undertake a road safety audit. In fact, sometimes it's absolutely meaningless because you're looking at a design. I mean, you've got an intersection, maybe it's completely being redone. You've got the design for that. I mean, what relevance is the crash history when it's a completely new form? Okay. But sometimes people actually utilize the crash history to get an understanding of what users are out there. Sometimes the changes aren't fundamental enough to completely ignore crash history if it's part of it. But I do want you to be absolutely aware here, and this is bigger than just road safety. Even area, this is bigger than just safe system audits or road safety audits. This is road safety in general. If an area does not have crashes, an intersection doesn't have crashes, it does not necessarily mean it is low risk or free of risk. It just means that that has not presented itself in crashes at this stage. Okay, that's important. We know characteristics of a road environment that are risky, and it doesn't matter whether there are crashes or not. Crashes are just the way that risk presents itself. Yes, it's the ultimate thing we're trying to eliminate, but don't get ever caught up into that. Oh, there's been no crashes at this location, so it's low risk. Okay, always question. Now, sometimes, crash history can be a really good tool to identify risk, but certainly, just be aware of its limitations. And anybody who's got any base level knowledge of statistics will be able to prove this in a statistical sense to you, because we we are often dealing with small numbers in massive number scenarios. Okay. Oh, sorry, the last question there. Should you look at the crash history as part of a road safety audit or safe system audit? That is absolutely up to you. I work with auditors, part of the audit team, who refuse to look at crash history, and I work with auditors who, really make it part of them gathering a full understanding of the area. The ones who refuse to use it, they say, I don't want my view of risk influenced by what could have been an absolute random occurrence. Okay, fair enough. And the others are saying, no, I might, see something. I'm like, oh, there's a few pedestrians being. We didn't see any pedestrians when we were on site, but there must be some we're not aware of. So it's up to you, really. My preference is to do the bulk of my road safety auditing before looking at crash history, and then I'll look at crash history and just see if anything else pops out. Road safety audits are very beneficial. We don't know with safe system audits as such, but I mean, there's really good evaluations of road safety audits, and you can see some of that on screen. There's good evaluations of safe system assessments, and a safe system audit being the combination of those two. It's going to be good, but we just don't have any of that particular evaluation. Under traditional benefit cost ratio perspective, we're talking like 36:1 for a design stage audit. Now, in a lot of jurisdictions, you can do existing conditions road safety audits. New Zealand doesn't tend to go down that track, but that's where you look at an existing intersection or existing length of road and analyze it for safety deficiencies and recommend treatments. Why would anybody got any ideas on why you get 36:1 for design stage, but only 6-to-1 for existing conditions in terms of that benefit cost ratio. Any guesses on that for a prize? Ah, good. Kathy, this is going to be your challenge. I mean, I think Jess there with the ability to change, I think there's some really other good ones in there, but it's just, yeah, that willingness to change a design, but once you've built it, you know, really in practice, and it really grates me though. Once they've built it, it's signs and lines, unless it's so like fundamentally bad. But that's all that you're really able to get out of them. But design stage, you can have fundamental changes to the design, and then what's built is safer. So yeah, the ability to change, the cost of change as well. Okay, I think you're getting your head a bit around what a road safety audit is, or what a safe system audit is. But you see there that Australia actually defines it. They don't do it in a nice, succinct way. It's a whole page of what this audit is and what it's not. Okay, now I'm going to take you through what a road safety audit is. And as we said, safe system audits, New Zealand's down that track is a little different. But you need to know, okay, what's a road safety audit? It's a formal examination of a future road or traffic project or an existing road or road-related area in which an independent qualified team reports on the project's crash potential and actual safety performance respect. That is the Australian definition. Okay, it goes in and then it starts to elaborate on a lot of that, but that's for part of it. It's formal. Okay, there are specific steps to take, and there's a formal reporting mechanism, and you sign it off at the end. Okay, these are formal documents. This is formal. We do it for future projects. You can, in a lot of jurisdictions, as I said, do it for existing roads, but future road projects, so designs. Independent, we already talked about. Can't audit your own design, can't audit your own project, your project manager of. You can't even audit if they're, you know, it's within the team that you're manager of, okay? Because you're not independent of. You're being influenced by a whole lot of other things. Qualified teams, yeah, so as we say, completed this course or other relevant courses, and, you know, we're thinking about what are the future crashes that are going to happen. So when we look at a safe system audit, okay, there's a lot of similar characteristics in there. Safe system audit, formal, robust technical assessment. Okay, you know, that's what a road safety audit is as well, but safe system audit, and independent and qualified teams. Okay, they've specified here that we're considering the safety of all people, no matter what mode, we're considering their safety. Got to apply safe system principles. I'm about to take you through that. And then in here, they also talk about not a review of compliance with standards. We talked about that as well. So it is very much the same. It's just slightly different ways that we piece this puzzle together in a safe system audit. So the safe system, and I think most of you will have had this, you know, drilled into you many times in your organisation. New Zealand is doing a wonderful job in embracing the safe system approach. This is the safe system diagram for New Zealand, and it sets a platform for how going to eliminate death and serious injury over the, you know, long-ish term. But some really important principles in there over here. I want to highlight a few of them. We design for human vulnerability, especially important when we consider road safety auditing. We need to know the forces that are going to happen on the human body. The other ones, we make safety a critical decision-making priority. So as we develop these projects, this process can really help. And we promote good choices, but plan for mistakes, which means we've got to manage the energy and crashes. All of the others are still important and integrated in. Those just have particular, you know, grabs as a road safety auditor or a safe system auditor. I'll take you, and that's a bit philosophical at this stage. I'll take you and jump you straight into an example very shortly. But let's have a little quiz just to check where we're at. I thought of some of this is going to be a little bit testing because it's not exactly what I said. You are not marked on these little quizzes that pop up, okay? Nothing in the actual live course you're going to be marked on, but this is just to get you doing something again. So hopefully a poll's popped up on your screen. It's got 4 questions. A few of them we've been through, and a few of them might need a little bit of thinking and head scratching because we may not have exactly covered that.
Thanks, Ken. A question that's come through is, can you do a limited scope audit, i.e. a cyclist or pedestrian users audit, and not take into account cars and trucks? It seems counterintuitive and wrong to look at it from a limited scope. What are your thoughts?
You can. It's what we call a thematic road safety audit, and we'll talk about it in the cycling, especially the cycling module of this course. It's just what you're kind of how do I explain that? It's like a cycle path, for example, that's crossing roads. You're focusing on the issues for the cyclist in that, not so much the approaching vehicles and what their potential issues are. You do kind of factor a little bit of that in. In practice, I don't often encourage thematic audits. Where I actually see the most beneficial is motorcycle audits, where you actually get a motorcyclist and you get them out there and they tell you some things and give you that. This is what we felt from a motorcyclist perspective, because driving through a route, you don't quite get that same feel. Okay, it looks like we've got lots of people in there. I need to keep moving on, Kathy. So let's end that poll, display it, and let's see.
So we've got true or false. Yep, a road safety audit is another name for a check against standards. Most people said false, which is the correct answer.
We're lucky that we don't know who the people. We don't get to know who said what, but there's 2 people I want to have a chat with.
Might have been a slip of the mouth. You never know.
Okay.
But 100% said you can audit your own design. True or false? False. 100%. So we have everybody's listening. Which of these is not one of the common principles of the safe system? To eliminate mistakes on the road, because we just.
I'm okay with a few people maybe tripping on, because I didn't. That's more at a philosophical level, and I didn't specify it exactly, but yeah. We're not going to eliminate mistakes. That's why we have to think about the management of those mistakes and the management of energy. Yep.
Usain Bolt crossing the finish line, was it at 44 kilometres an hour?
It was at 44 kilometres per hour, Kathy. And I reckon a few of these people have had this question before, because I asked the same question in the Safe System Assessment course. And it was 44 kilometres an hour. Why on earth am I asking that again? Well, same reason. And it's because we need to understand the force of when a vehicle strikes a pedestrian. And I like to use a little analogy of the pedestrian striking the vehicle. So we park the car at the end of Usain Bolt's lane, and he runs down that lane at 44 kilometres an hour and he hits the car. And is he going to survive? Yeah, he'll survive. He's built like a fridge, so he'll be fine. Well, he'll hurt himself a bit, but in general, we are built to survive that kind of force of the pace of our own legs. Now, tiny little bit of difference in the physics here, but when a car strikes a pedestrian, 44 kilometres an hour, Usain Bolt's there. But what this graph shows is collision speed of impact, not speed limit or anything like this, just speed of impact, and the chance it's going to kill a member of our community, not Usain Bolt, any member of our community. And so we see, very low speeds, it's very unlikely that anybody struck will die. And, you know, then up at, you know, 60 kilometers an hour, when a car hits a pedestrian at 60 kilometers an hour, we're pretty confident they're going to be killed. Yeah, there'll be circumstances and occasional occurrences where they won't be, but it's going to be bad. We're built to survive this kind of stuff.
Still doesn't look pretty though, does it?
It does not. It broke a few ribs, but came back and won the gold medal the next year. So that's the kind of stuff we can survive. We don't want to do it, but that's what we're built for. And the reality is the road network presents us huge areas that are far beyond the forces we can handle. And we need to look at redesigning the road network so we don't have those forces imparted on humans. Yeah, the vehicles may crash at high speeds, but they should be managing the energy. We have this information for other crash types as well. Side impact crash, and many of you have seen this already, but we've got the bullet vehicle here doing the damage. The bullet vehicle speed, and we see around the sort of 40, 50 kilometers an hour, generally survivable for the occupants of the target vehicle. Up around sort of 80 kilometers an hour is fairly unsurvivable for the target vehicle occupants. And head-on crashes, we're talking around that sort of 60, 70 kilometer per hour speed of each vehicle. So it'd be a closing speed of 140. Impact speed for the individual occupants is a 70 kilometer per hour crash. But they sort of give us a little bit of understanding about what kind of forces we're thinking about in crashes. And we tend to draw this sort of 10% line. 30 kilometers an hour, 50 kilometers per hour, 70 kilometers per hour, 30 kilometers per hour for the pedestrian one, 50 kilometers per hour for the right angle crash at the intersection, 70 kilometers per hour for the head-on crashes. They're about the limits we impose under sort of safe system threshold speeds. Okay. Lots of debate out about, adjusting this, and people doing their PhDs on trying to adjust this, and people, debating, well, are we ignoring these bits down here and the like? But for now, we really talk to those as a threshold speed. And I've popped some more in there, and these are in your notes. We've got side impacts with poles around that 30 or 40 kilometer per hour, or trees. It's pretty low speed where it's very severe. Side impact into a pole is a serious incident. So you can see those sort of put in there, motorcyclists and pedestrians. Okay, so the old sort of road safety audit model, and some of you probably were very involved in this and have done them. We identify an issue, give it a risk rating, and then we recommend treatments. The new safe system assessment model sort of goes, okay, let's do this safe system assessment matrix, which we're not going to take you through in detail in this course. Okay. We identify issues, we risk rate the issues, and we look at that biomechanics of injury. So those forces that I was talking about in the last slide. Where does this sit? Are we talking about lots and lots of minor incidents, or are we talking about a few fatalities or serious injuries? So highly severe incidents. Then we recommend treatments, and we just give a little bit of a help to the designers and the project team to say, these treatments that we're recommending are the ones that are really going to eliminate or get us close to eliminating death and serious injury. And these ones are going to lower the risk of it. So that's how we categorize. The easiest way for me to sort of explain this is just take you through an example. And this is what we're going to do. I'm going to run you through an example, and then you're going to, in the future modules, you're all going to have a go at this. And so you're starting to build up this practice of finding an issue and then reporting it in the correct Okay, so here is an intersection. It's new. They're planning this new intersection. It doesn't exist at the moment. They're doing a left turn lane. We've got a hold line there. It's a high-speed road here and another high-speed road sort of coming into it. It's a T intersection. The issue we've identified is, okay, I'm worried about this scenario. So you can see a truck off there in the distance, and the truck is doing a left turn. You can see just sort of sitting on its shoulder there is that white car. We've got this silver car sitting there. Let's go a little bit further forward. And you can see there that the truck's doing its left turn, the white car's continuing on through, and this silver vehicle right in front of us here, once that white car has gone past, they will make their turn to go right. But the whole time there, that other silver car had just been masked by that left-turning truck. Okay, it's what we call a dynamic visual obstruction. So it's a visual obstruction. It's moving. It's not always there, but we know from that configuration of that design and that scenario that this is something that we see death and serious injury as a result of. Okay, you often say, why have they pulled out right in front of that car when you're doing the crash investigation? But it's because that at that exact time, there was a vehicle masking the view of it. And it can be exacerbated by vehicles, queuing behind, and maybe it's been a minute or two and there's people beeping and they're like, oh, as soon as this car goes, I'll go, right? And we have, through our design, created a scenario which is going to reasonably kill and seriously injure our community. I don't mean that reasonably in terms of acceptable. I'm saying that we know it's going to happen. It's not like it's a complete unknown that we couldn't possibly predict. We know it's going to happen. So this is what we then write up. We explain the issue. And the first thing I'd like to say is that as an auditor, the best thing you can do is a little snip of the design and a diagram. I don't even need to read these words to know what the issue is. And that is a win, because words can get confused and they can look at the wrong part of the intersection. That is clear, okay? But then the writing up of the words it's a particular way that a good road safety audit should be written up. And what I've done is it only took me about 15 years of teaching road safety auditing to work out. There's actually, you can kind of make a formula of what a good road safety audit finding is, and it's the same as safe system assessment finding. And I've created the formula or the recipe. And when you're writing up your audit findings as part of this course, you will be marked on whether you're following this formula. It's good practice to follow this. When you're a very experienced auditor, sometimes you might play around with this, but as you start entering into it, just follow the formula. And the formula goes as such. Explain the issue. Okay, so the intersection of blah, blah, blah is vehicles using the left turn lane may create a dynamic visual obstruction for motorists at the hold line looking for through vehicles. Okay, you've explained the issue and where it is. The yellow there is the crash. This increases the likelihood of right through side impact crashes involving vehicles turning out of the side road. I don't care how blindingly obvious it is to you when you're writing your finding of what the crash is, you specify it. That makes sense? I don't care, like you're talking about a pedestrian crossing, you're talking about a vehicle overshooting the pedestrian crossing or not having good sight lines to the pedestrian crossing, you still spell out this could, this will result in a pedestrian being struck by a vehicle. Okay? Actually specify the crash you're thinking about. If you can't specify a crash, it's not a road safety audit issue. And people do that. Like you might think, why would they do that? Well, they don't like some little bit of, drainage that's happening off the side of the carriageway. Okay. Because they're maybe a very good drainage person and designer, and they say, the issue is that this drainage will cause erosion to this part of the thing and seep into this house. Okay, that's not our issue. That's not a road safety audit issue. That's an issue for the project, and you might maybe send them a little email. Hey, I noticed this, by the way, not going in a road safety audit report. So what's the crash that could happen as a result? Then you make some general commentary about what are factors that may increase the risk, decrease the risk, alter the risk, So in this one, we say the volume of vehicles on both roads is low, which reduces the risk. So, not many vehicles on these roads. So, however, the proportion of larger vehicles turning left into Epsom Bunalawaka Road is high, which increases the chance of the dynamic visual obstruction. Okay, so a bigger vehicle turning left is more likely to mask that other vehicle. So we're more likely to see that happen. Then this purple one, any standards or guidelines, if applicable. And remember, standards and guidelines is not what we're checking against. All right. But if you actually happen to say, and you know what, this does not conform to Austroads or Wakatahi guidance or local council guidance, and we've got that, and here it is, great, put it in. I mean, it just backs up the finding. Interestingly, on this one, it said the design is consistent with current Austroads and Vic Roads design guidance. The auditors believe it still presents a safety issue. Okay? There's one that actually just flat out said, hey, we know this meets standards and guidelines, doesn't mean it's safe. So then we've got to risk rate this. Now, risk is the chance of a crash happening, the frequency of it, the likelihood of it, multiplied by how bad it's going to be. For the road safety audit component of a safe system audit, that is what we continue to use. The safe system assessment bit, the first little bit you'll do in a safe system audit, you add exposure here, or you extract exposure out by itself. But frequency, severity, or likelihood, consequence, or whatever, however you want to talk to that. And this is the table that's straight out of the new Wakatahi guidance. And you can see here that we've got what is the chance a crash will happen, and then how bad is it going to be? And then you find the corresponding risk. So if you say, well, it's going to happen a lot, but it's really only going to be property damage, it's minor. That is the risk. Okay. But if you say, well, unlikely to happen, but when it does happen, it's going to be serious, the risk is significant. And you can see here, they've added in this safe system threshold, injury threshold line. And that's because we're worried about fatal and serious injury the most. It does not mean that something on the left of this line is not something we should have a look at, but we're, I suppose, more okay with things to the left of this line than we are things to the right of this line. So you have to be a little bit of an investigator to find this, but very likely is talked about as one per year you would expect that crash of that severity to be occurring, and very unlikely is sort of one per 10 years plus for that to be happening. Okay, now that actually comes out of the previous version of the Wakatahi guidelines, but you sort of have to take that through.
Ken, just a question. It always struck me that significant seems more likely the word to use for the highest risk, and that serious would be second.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, yeah, good spotting. So this varies from what Austroads has put out in a number of ways, and yeah, I think that this is probably one that you might see changes in 6 months' time when they, when they take all the feedback, because there's a few things that people are quite uncomfortable with. I redid the Austroads one, and I made it a 5x5 matrix, and I used intolerable, and I think I used intolerable. I can't, but yeah, I'd agree. I mean, the wording's a little bit weird, but it's also, you'll discover that there's a lot that sits in that significant categorization, which is, it's somewhat an intentional decision, but practically you don't have enough granularity here to really prioritize things, in my opinion. But it's good in one sense. It shows the serious nature of it, and serious and significant nature of it. But yeah, so I agree with that point. But like when we're talking about this severity of outcome, fatal, serious, minor, other, this is where we're starting to say, well, which, the speed and the crash type, is it going to be above or below the line that helps you understand? Is it going to be serious, fatal, or is it going to be some minor incident? So we then go like, okay, what is the risk here? And we say, okay, what's the chance of this crash happening? And we say it's very unlikely, because we've established that, well, we know there's an issue. We've established it's low volume. Okay, you've got to get this like scenario to all come into play together. You've got to have that large vehicle. It's got to be left turning. You've got to have the masking, and you've got to have the vehicle there that's coming out, and they've got to have made a bad decision. Okay, we say we know it'll happen, but how often is it going to happen? We know there's a lot of this out there, and we sort of know a bit of the frequency of it. So we're going to go with very unlikely. Maybe it's unlikely, but it's not going to happen every year that we see a crash as a result of dynamic visual obstruction with these traffic volumes. If it was super high traffic volumes, we probably will be upping that, but that's where it sits. But when it happens, it's going to be bad, right? This is side impact. We're talking about 80 or 100 km/h speeds for the bullet vehicle. It's unsurvivable. Okay, it might be freak incidences where it's survivable, but there'll probably be a lot of them where they clip the front of the vehicle, or they clip the back of the vehicle or something, and it's survivable. But generally, we know when that happens at a square hit, it's unsurvivable. The resulting risk is significant. So you can see there that we've spelled that out, and you kind of want to do that. You want to show them how you arrived at this. And then what we want to do is say, okay, that's your risk. Now, here are some ways that you can lessen that risk. Ideally, we want the elimination of that risk, okay? But, that can be fairly hard to do sometimes. But there's many ways that we could lessen that risk, isn't there? So we could, just off the top of my head here, we could close this road. Right? That's eliminated the risk. Kind of defeats the whole purpose of their project, but it would eliminate the risk. Okay? We could put a roundabout in. We could put traffic signals in that would reduce the risk. We could offset the turn lane. We could maybe, put up a warning sign here. We could not have a left turn lane. We could just have a left and through lane so they can't get past them. Yeah, all of those have advantages and different disadvantages. They have effectiveness differences as well. And some of them treat the chance of the crash, and some of them treat the severity of the crash, and some of them treat both. So how do we provide a little bit of guidance to the project team on which of these is the one that you'd really like to do, and which of these are not as good? And the way we do that is to say, here's either a series of things that you could do, or here's one thing that you could do. But we categorize each of those. And we told them either primary treatments or supporting treatments. Now, this is probably going to be the thing that's going to confuse some of you. If you've done the Safe System Assessment course, you've got a lot of practice at it, and you'll be very good at it. But I want you to think of these as little buckets. I really should just draw these as buckets. I don't want you to think these as a label of it. Like, these are buckets of treatments. And there's a heap of treatments in the primary. It could be roundabouts, it could be raised intersections, it could be this, it could be that, right? And so you might pick one of those from that bucket. Supporting are things like line marking, lighting, and the like. So you can pick from that bucket. But these primary ones are what we would say are any planning or design considerations that virtually eliminate the potential for fatal and serious injury occurring associated with that particular crash type. That's going to be key to you. Crash type. Okay. Supporting are things that are going to lessen the chance that that crash is going to happen. We're not going to virtually eliminate that crash type. So I'm going to explain that on this one then. So we're going to go, okay, implement measures to reduce the speed and/or angle of impact at this location. This could be achieved with a roundabout, primary. If this could not be achieved, implement measures to improve sight lines at this location, such as increasing the offset of the left turn lane, supporting, relocating the hold line forward if it can be done safely. Okay, you can notice in there with that last one, we're not designing, we're not redesign, we're not doing the design. They can have a look if they can do that safely and they can adjust, right? We're just saying that's your issue. Now, why on earth is increasing the offset? So we're now going to, make the left turn lane down here. We're going to have some sort of hatched area here, maybe. Okay, we've opened up this sight line. The dynamic visual obstruction has been removed. Why is that not a primary? Because we're talking about the crash type, not that particular issue. The crash type is a side impact with this vehicle, okay? That can still occur. It is less likely to occur because we've opened up the sight line, but the crash can absolutely occur at the same speed when this person makes a mistake and they come out there. Now, they may be distracted by something. They may, for one reason or another. So it's not going to absolutely eliminate that crash type, which is side impact crash at that speed. Whereas the roundabout virtually does eliminate that. Okay, they slow down on the approach, this slowed down, and we may see some side impact crashes, but they're not going to result in death or serious injury because they're low speed, the angles are bad. I hope that is a little bit of an insight into how you categorize those. We're going to give you some practice in this, okay? Because it's something a little bit, interesting. Kathy.
Ken, is it possible to suggest something a little bit different and innovative, such as a convex mirror opposite the intersection to see if there's a car obscured by the truck?
Okay, good question. So you want to be careful about what you recommend that doesn't create other risks. So as an auditor, I would often, if I'm suggesting something that I know other risks exist with, I've just got to be very clear with that in the writing. I say, so if you really thought a convex mirror was a good thing to do there, you'd say, if none of this can be achieved, consider a convex mirror. However, this does come with some risks associated with over-reliance, graffiti or damage to the mirror, and listing some of the other things. So it just means that the designer and the project manager, they may be just like between a rock and a hard place, and they go, well, something's better than nothing, and I'll take that, but I'm aware of these risks. I was just finishing off a convex mirror fact sheet, actually, because convex mirrors come up a lot. I dislike them because they're it's basically, if you see a convex mirror, there's a fundamental geometric issue with that road and that intersection. It has to be, right? it is a average solution to it. However, sometimes there is absolutely nothing else you can do, right? And I go, well, that's where we're at. But I've got a whole series of things you do before you get to convex mirrors. And certainly at a stage like this, when you have not built anything, if we're going to what I would consider a very low form of control, like very low form of risk management, before we've spent millions and millions of dollars, like it's just, we've got it all out of whack. But yeah, you're free to recommend whatever you want, and they do not have to take on anything. In fact, you can see from this, this audit team's actually been quite nice to these, because they know, they're smart enough to say they won't be able to afford a roundabout. Like this is already going to have been locked in. They've got a budget. They've come up with a design. Yes, we should be saying to them, a roundabout would be far better. Maybe, maybe they do have access to more money. Maybe they've got something else we don't know about. So you don't ignore the idea of a roundabout. But the reality is that most jobs, they have a set budget. They've chosen this, and you're auditing it, and you've got to help them out a little bit with other risk control measures.
Ken, I'm just going to give you the time check there. We do have 10 minutes to go. So, okay.
So there's a little example. So I'm going to get you to practice some primary stuff later on. Primary treatments, they either address the consequence of the crash or they virtually eliminate it. Okay, some of you are going to be really good at this. We'll give others practice at it. It's going to be a little bit of a hard thing to do. In the Wakatahi standard template document, which you will be using, you can see there's some drop downs in terms of probability and severity, so you can put them in easily, and you'll get some practice in using this as getting to risk ratings. I'm going to just skip over this example, but you can have a read of it yourself. It's just saying this is poor. There's just not enough information there. This is fair because you're starting to spell out that information about an issue. This is great. Okay, I've got a snip of the plan. I've pointed at it. I know immediately, without even having to read all that right turn lane's too narrow. That's going to cause side swipes and rear end crashes. We know that. I know exactly which leg it is. And that's what it is. You can break it down to that formula: issue, crash, risk factors. And this one has standards and guidelines that it doesn't meet, so we chucked it in there. Road safety audits, so they're not, just a little site inspection or a quick check against a design or a crash investigation or that standards review. We've defined what they are. There's something else. And you can audit like anything that interacts with the road: big projects, small projects, pedestrian projects, work sites, innovative things. You can audit a heap of stuff. In New Zealand, you don't do a road safety audit on an existing conditions road. It's that's not a thing of use of that process, although I am told in action. So that's what official line is. I'm told in practice some people do. And I think that is probably a point I hand over to Kathy, and I will start next session with this example. I don't think there's any more Wallies to come. I'll just double check my notes.
Why not on existing roads, please, Ken?
That's as I say, most other jurisdictions do it. I think Wakatahi's just said no, existing roads can have a different process. Yeah, I don't have a good answer to that. The process that I just laid out works perfectly fine for existing roads as well. Yeah, crash reduction study, or like your Kiwi RAP assessment, or the like. Now, Kathy, you're going to give people an assignment, are you?
I certainly am. And Ken, you need to run off to to go and facilitate another session now. Is that right? So you'll leave us now?
I'm going to leave you now, but Kathy's going to give you an assignment. I'm excited to receive the assignments. There are prizes. If you log in early for next session, we're going to run some trivia just a few minutes before, give out some more prizes before we even begin. And I'm going to start with that example for next session. But thank you.
Marvelous.
Great group. Love the interaction. Thanks, Kathy.
Thanks, Ken. I'll lead them all astray now. It's all good. Okay, so we are going to cover off that research topic assignment that someone has already quite smartly pointed out, but this is the learning management system. So you would have received an email with your login and password. As I said, if you haven't jumped on here as yet, please just email me and I'll get that to you. If you haven't already, there's a Safe System video there, and there's some excellent resources that Waka Kotahi has put together. So there's a bit of, I guess, e-learning type module there. 10 minutes is all it takes. Reference, documents, and resources. So this is some information in here for you. And then we're at module 1 at the moment. So some of the videos that Ken showed and some that he also didn't show. And I've got an example in here of a research assignment. So this is one of our engineers that put together a research assignment. So we have tested this on our own staff. You'll be pleased to know. So what we're asking you to do for the research topic is basically, I will assign you shortly a topic at random and we'll attach it here. So you need to create one of the following. It can be a fact sheet, a cartoon, short video, so a minute at the most, a TikTok video or something new and innovative, a podcast or anything at all. You can do a PowerPoint, interpretive dance, anything you like. And we are giving away some major prizes for this one. One will be for the most creative way of presenting the information, for the most technically sound information, and for the most engaging. So as I said, there is an example in the module 1 videos, and you do have until next Monday. Now, you know, some people like to go above and beyond. We're not expecting you to go absolutely, you know, to create a masterpiece movie or anything like that, but just do what you can in the time that you have available to you. What we will do is actually share them all with everybody else in the group. So we'll pop them up here once they've all come in, so that you can have a look at each other's research topics and see what other people did. And it's a way for you to learn a little bit about other things that we haven't been able to cover off in the course. Also, that module 1 quiz that I mentioned. So you just jump in here and attempt the quiz, and that's the last question will be the number of wallies. And there is a little bit of leeway in there. So if you didn't get the exact number of wallies, you should be okay. So we're all traveling okay with that. I don't think there's any questions at the moment. Please sing out if you do have any questions. What we'll jump straight into is the generating of teams and topics. And here is the random topic generator. And I'm going to stop here. And this is, so you've all, it might be a little bit small on your end, but basically Julio is getting sign support structures. Sean is getting anti-gawk screens. Martin has roundabouts versus traffic signals, and so on and so forth. So there's lots of different topics in there. I'm going to copy this and pop it into the module 1 folder, and also send you an email with this attached. So if you have any questions or you're concerned, you go, I don't know what a Y intersection is, and I don't know where to start with it, then please get in touch and I'll give you some hints. Now, just wanted to check in. So you don't have to jot this down. I'll send this to you. Is everybody okay? This is your last chance for questions. And as Ken said, we'll start with some trivia before the next session. Okay, I think we're good. If you've got any questions you want to ask me offline, please don't hesitate to do so. Otherwise, we'll see you on Thursday morning. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye. Yeah, you can do the quiz, basically start the quiz now if you like, or you just need to do the quiz sometime throughout the series of the course. Thanks. The intended audience is transport professionals. Good question, Will.